Good morning, everybody. Okay, this is the Academy of Spiritual Awakening, and I think I'm online right now. It had no difficulties whatsoever here, and I wanted to really talk about what I talked about last Thursday night. I talked about our relationships. I talked about, hey, Cynthia, good to see you, my holy sister. And about how love really is perceived in this world. And so I want to talk about it again today, kind of like part two, how to bring healing to your relationships, how to bring a greater awareness of what is happening, how you view love, for instance, and your interaction with other people. So I also have referred to this as a healed relationship. Hi, Kurt. Hi, Don. Good to see you both here. And I am reminded, excuse me just a moment here, I just wanted to talk about a scripture in the New Testament in John, 1 John actually, one of my favorite scriptures in the Bible. Beloved, let us love one another. For love is of God, and everyone that loveth is born of God and knoweth God. He that loveth not knoweth not God, for God is love. God is love. And one of the reasons why, by the way, I use on the website in the About tab there is about the Golden Rule and why this is so important for me in this experience in time and space. You know, I think that it is a nice way of Jesus explaining A Course in Miracles or the Way of Mastery to the masses simply by telling people to love God with all of our hearts, soul, and strength, and to love others as we want to be loved. That's it. When we do that, my goodness, the world can be changed almost instantly. Okay, so keep in mind this fact. This is what most religions in our world really uses this as a foundation in their world. In Buddhism, Taoism, Christianity as well. Also, in Luke chapter 10, 25 through 37, you know, a lawyer came to Jesus one time and said, hey, Jesus, what do I have to do here to live forever? And Jesus said, well, look at the prophets, look at the law. What do they say? And the lawyer said to Jesus, hey, we should love God with all of our hearts, strength, and soul, and to love others as we want to be loved. And Jesus said, do this, and you will live forever. And this is the same foundation that we bring also into our relationships as well. Unfortunately, hey, Beatrice, it's good to see you, as well as Marguerite. Good to see you as well. This is why we don't bring those self-same foundations to our relationships. Instead, we look at them upside down or inside out. Okay? And because of that, most relationships in this world is based upon expectations and agendas and what can I get from you instead of what can I give unto you as well. Do you see this, folks? And of course, the Miracle says this as well. As long as love is your only function, there will be nothing that the Holy Spirit or the Spirit of love will not arrange for you without your effort. He will go before you, straightening the paths and everything. So all of the obstacles, the barriers rather, that we have erected between ourselves and the awareness of God's love is then removed in that moment. Hey, Adam, it's good to see you, my holy brother. Keep in mind as we go through and discuss relationships and love in our discussion this afternoon is that fear, for instance, is not the opposite of love. That fear is the denial of it. That whenever we enter into an energy that we are extending to fear, then we are losing immediately the awareness of God's love, which is present for us right now. Hey, Scott, good to see you, my friend. As Madeline as well, good to see you as well. So again, fear is not the opposite of love. It is the denial of it. Hey, Maria, good to see you, my holy sister. So, and therefore, we do not seek for love, but rather for all of the barriers that we have built against it. That's it. That's all that we are looking at right now. So I'm going to go through with you here, probably 30, 40, maybe 45 minutes with you, going through some of steps that you and I could become aware of in our relationships with other people, whether it be a romantic relationship we have other people, or a familial relationship we have with our family, or our work relationships as well. All of these principles will be brought to bear in each and every relationship, each and every time that we begin to unveil the barriers that we ourselves have created in our relationships. When we learn it and transcend those limiting beliefs, then we can, through transference, giving those same lessons to every other relationships in our world. Keep in mind that, people can be in a relationship and then being out of it. That is BS. Okay, hey, Charles, good to see you, my holy brother. So every time that we are in relationship with anybody, it's because we are in all relationships at all time. There is no place in this continuum that we are in which we were not able to have a relationship. If we block somebody or reject somebody in a relationship, then we are removing ourselves from the awareness of love in that specific relationship. We go together and become aware together God's love, and if we don't do that with everybody, then we're alone. And we are without the benefit and the comforts of God's love in our experience. Do you get that, folks? As we go through these steps with you, Esteban, good to see you, my holy brother. Director on our board of directors here at the Academy of Spiritual Awakening. If you have any questions whatsoever, folks, I am here for you. I am here to set you on the right path. Okay? Hey, Diana, good to see you as well. So, let's delve into this experience we call love. And keep in mind, I always use A Course in Miracles based on the handwritten notes of Helen Schucman. And that is my Bible, if you will, as well as the way of mastery. The way of the heart, the way of transformation, as well as the way of knowing. All of these tools has been given to us to help us to become aware and to become awake in our relationships with other people. Also, the first part of this was in our last video from last, Friday at 3 o'clock, which is the same of time right now. And that's on our website as well, and that's in the description as well as on our website, the Academy of Spiritual Awakening.org. So before I delve into the first step, I want everyone to be aware that what we are dealing here is a fact. That love hasn't stopped being love in our experience. Okay? The only time that we are unaware of love is that we are elsewhere. We are distracted by time and space. And because of that, we miss so much in our experiences with other people. Because our relationships with other people is based upon the sacred nature that lives and moves and abides in our lives each and every day. And when we tap into that, my God, our world begins to change accordingly. Okay? Let's take a deep breath before we go into the delving into the steps of awakening and bringing healing to our relationships and to an awareness of God's love, which is present here and now. Keep in mind, this is not you breathing here. This is the universe breathing through you, okay? Hey, Russell, good to see you as well, Russell. God is here. Love is here. And in this moment, we can also acknowledge the sacred nature of what we are experiencing right now. So we are moving away from a duality-driven thinking, good, bad, right, wrong, beautiful, ugly, to an experience instead of seeing the world with perfect vision. And the way that we do that is when we remove those obstacles and barriers that we have placed within ourselves, between ourselves and the awareness of God's love. Hey, Thomas, Tessa, it's good to see you, my holy friend, and I miss you so much. Much love. Hey, Carrie, miss you as well in Coconut Grove. So the first step that we are discussing here, again, folks, if you have any questions here, I will respond to you immediately, okay? All right. Number one, love is one. Love is one. In other words, everything that we are dealing with in this life is the fact that the notion of a subject here called Kevin Rice, or an object there called my Aaron Adams, my spouse, is on right now, that itself is an hallucination, okay? There is no subject and object there. That notion itself is an hallucination. It is. And so therefore, because love is one, that love is a state of being. There is no two people here or thousands of people experiencing the love of God. There's only one. One, and that is you. And it is your responsibility and my responsibility as a child of the day, as a child of the light, to extend and to express the love of God as much as I can possibly extend to the world as well. So that is why love is one. That there is no love but God's. So for instance, we are to God's love as fish are to the ocean. So wherever we are doing it within, we are doing it within the them equally. That is it. Okay, I think I went south here and maybe went black here on here. So if you are here, let me look here again on Facebook Live. This is always a very interesting medium that I'm using each and every week. But apparently there are people here right now, I guess. So I guess we went off for just a moment and now we're back on. So if you're here, say hello to me to let me know that you are here with us right now. Okay, let me look here. Okay. All right, good. So let's continue here. As I said before, I was interrupted here. That you cannot enter into real relationships with any of God's sons unless you love them all and equally. That love is not special. Love is not special. Because when we begin to entertain the notion that love is special, then your special love will become your special hate. It will. That we will rise that individual up to a pedestal. and ask them to be something that they were never intended to be in your experience, to bring you a special and romantic experience of God's love. You see this? And the reason why is because that nothing is special, because everything is special. The specialness of God's sons and daughters stems out of inclusion rather than exclusion. Okay? That's it. So all of our love that we are extending and expressing to everyone in this world has to be done knowing that everybody is sacred, that everything that we are experiencing in time and space is not special, okay? But that specialness comes out of inclusion and not exclusion. You say, Kevin, how do I then remove the blocks to the awareness of God's presence right now? And it's real simple. First, I use these 3 affirmations in my daily experience in time and space. The first one is this: I am that I am. I am that, comma, I am. In other words, everything that I am experiencing in this continuum we call time and space is one with me, okay? So we are, in essence, in a dream state. And we are not a participant within the dream state, but we are the dreamer of the entire dream. And until and unless we embrace that and become one with it, then we'll always have an experience of frustration. That's it. Hey, John, good to see you, my holy brother. That's it. So when I say, I am that, John, I am that, Scott, Diana, I am that, I am, Cynthia, I am that, I am. Then I remove all of those barriers, those obstacles that I have placed between myself and the world. So the first step then is love is one. Love is not separate. In any way, shape, or form would we ever allow ourselves to give any energy or attention to what is, at the very base of it, an illusion. So number 2, drop your expectations. Drop your expectations. As I said last week, and I'll say it again, over and over again, that many relationships in this world is nothing more than 2 sets of expectations coming together to live in frustration. And that's why the relationships in this world always go south quickly, right? That's it. So let's talk about expectations here for just a moment here. Okay, expectations places your relationships in time and space. However, in reality, you and I move with others in the portal of the eternal timeless now. What is happening here and now. Not what is happening in the past, not what is happening in the future. This is why life is action, not reaction. In other words, you're going to respond to any event that's happening in time and space or in your relationships, not from the prism of the past or the future, but rather through the vision of holiness, through the vision of the sacred that's happening right now. You say, Kevin, how can I know that this is sacred right now? To whatever extent that you have removed yourself from the past or the future. When we use the past if we use the past to judge against a person's present, then the future will be like the past, and the present moment will always be a hellish experience. Okay, so let's talk about judgment here for just a moment. And I want to start with A Course in Miracles that begins with what is called the law of chaos. And the first law of chaos, and I mentioned it briefly last week, but I want to expound on it a little bit more right now. The first law of chaos is that the notion, the illusion that my truth is different than your truth, and not only is it different than yours, that my values are better than yours. When I believe that for even a second, then my experience will begin to go south because of it. Okay? Because then I'm no longer on a level playing field, but rather I'm on an uneven playing field because of my own choices to become there. That's it. No other questions are being asked of you but that. Okay? Because the notion that we are not on an equal level field with each other then immediately will tell us that we believe in that moment in separation, as opposed to our experience of oneness as well. Okay? Now, the reason why this goes into our worlds through many, many egos in this world is the notion that the ego wants to place in our field of awareness. Okay? And here's the notion. That you're broke and that you need to be fixed. You're broken and you need to be fixed. You're full of sin and you should be forgiven. That you're separate from me, but you have to become one with me. All of those notions will perpetuate that voice of the fear, or the voice of the ego that tells you that the premise that we are dealing with right now is at its very base broken and separate and defiled. You see this? When I can undo that, and this is why A Course in Miracles says, I have done this thing, and it is this that I would undo. So in other words, that means the first step is to say to ourselves, I have participated on some level to create what is clearly a mess within time and space. This is why that mystics say many, many times, all is well, but the world is a mess. In other words, on the level of mind, I can change what I'm experiencing by changing my tomorrows, by changing what is happening right now. You see this? But I can choose again. But the level of correction always occurs at the level of mind. It does not occur at the level of behavior. So I'm not here, then, trying to correct you. I'm not here trying to improve you at all. Okay? I'm not here to change the world. I am here instead to change my mind about it. And when I change my mind, then my experience can change accordingly because of it. And again, I want to say, all of you here, if you have any questions whatsoever about your relationships with other people that has been difficult or challenging, I am here to respond to those questions right now. Okay? So then we're dealing with, and I mentioned it earlier already, that what we are dealing with right now is two voices, two choices. So essentially what we are presented with again is that premise, that posture that says, from the ego, what can I give from you? Right? What can I get from you? That is an egoic device. But I can change my mind. I can choose again, correct? By saying instead, what can I give to you in this relationship? What can I extend and express to you in this moment to make sure that you and I both have an awareness of God's love in this moment? This is what A Course in Miracles calls the scarcity principle. What is the scarcity principle? The principle is this, that I seek for outside what I think is missing within inside my own mind. That's the scarcity principle. And this is why Jesus said, the poor will always be with you. Why? Because the entire basis of this world is based on the notion that we live in a world of poverty, of scarcity, of having to find my happiness, my fulfillment, my joy, my bliss from somebody else. That the treasure that God has given to me right now, I'm going to throw it away by seeing it instead in my brothers and sisters instead. And because of that, those relationships are laden with burden. It's tiresome. And it does not feel natural whatsoever. And in fact, many relationships feel that the relationship does not exhibit freedom at all. But they feel sometimes that they are enslaved by what? Time and space, the past and the future. And because of that, the portal and the window of the eternal timeless now is immediately shut down. So you can't see through perfect vision what is happening, because you or myself have created a gap, between us. And it's our responsibility then to what? Remove that gap immediately. That gap of separation between me and you have been placed there because of our own choices in time and space, okay? Any questions about that, folks? I'm here for you. Just put in the comments here. I'm watching you all right now, and I appreciate your participation with us this afternoon. We're talking about the scarcity principle. Let me show you how it manifests in our world also. So, if I believe in scarcity, for instance, it is because in this moment what I am harboring is not the light of God or the love of God, but rather I am giving my attention. Hey, Maria and Don, good to see you both here. I am giving my attention instead to the notion that I'm guilty because of it. And I've said this repeatedly, that the guilt is the most unproductive emotion in the world. It just is. So people who feel guilt, for instance, will inevitably and invariably create a scenario in which they punish themselves because of that guilt. And because of it, it will perpetuate that notion of guilt over and over and over and over again until we can stop the cycle of sabotage. That's it. So when we experience then that guilt and we give some attention to it and some energy to it, what do? How does that manifest in this world? I'll tell you how it manifests. If you look at it from the past tense, that guilt will show up as sin. And in the future, that guilt will show up as what? Fear. That's it. You don't like sin and you don't like fear? Then get rid of the guilt that is producing it right now in the eternal timeless now. Because you're not here and now, you're elsewhere. Well, look what I did yesterday. Look how I interacted with that person, that man or that woman. I feel so guilty because of it. And because of that, I will continue to punish myself because of it. This is why I tell a lot of friends here also, teachers of God as well. Speak, do what you are instructed to do in this time and space experience, fine. But don't evaluate yourself afterward. That evaluation is itself egoic. It's full of fear. It's full of guilt. Okay? So, we talked about the first one, love is one. Secondly, let go of your expectations. And before you let go of your expectations in your relationships, do this with me right now. I ask you to say to yourself, I can't be happy without blank. I can't be happy without my spouse, Aaron. I can't be happy without Julie. I can't be happy without Esteban or Chris or Rhonda. Okay, all of those things will keep us asleep. What is reality then? Reality is truth. What is the truth here? You can be happy without anybody else in your experience in terms of a relationship. You can be alone and still be happy. You can be within relationships with a person and still be happy. Loved ones in your experience can pass away from this realm to another realm. Again, you are still happy. Why? Because happiness is not circumstantial. It is not dependent upon time and space whatsoever. Happiness, as well as love, is a state of being. You got that, folks? If you agree, say yes, at least, okay? And every time that you share this video, or like even, not to enrich Kevin Rice, but rather to extend and to express the love of God in all relationships, to bring healing in our relationships to all people, by sharing this video, which is live right now, to your friends. And it helps us. So, you know, my book, which is somewhere here, I thought it was right here, but it isn't. The Game of Love, Changing the Rules, Changes Everything. And in that book, I'm talking about the ego's relationship playbook. And there is 4 statements from the ego's playbook there. The first one is this, and all of these 4 statements are completely a lie, okay? But most people, unfortunately, buy into it instead. The first one is, I do not have the treasure I seek. I do not have the treasure I seek. In other words, most people are out searching for love elsewhere. And of course in Miracles in chapter 30, I believe, says, seek not outside of yourself, for it will fail and you will weep each time an idol falls. Okay? So we're talking about an idol, essentially, when I have placed not the love of God inside of me, but rather in somebody else's body. If I'm with Sally or Jerry, then I'll be happy. Then I'll experience happiness. Okay. That's the first statement from the ego. The second one is someone, quote unquote, outside or out there possesses the treasure that I'm searching for. And then thirdly, that I must love the one who has my treasure. And then fourthly, I must simultaneously fear this one because of it. Because this person that I have given them my treasure now has the reason and the source and the motivation of removing me from an awareness of God's love, which I think in that moment is in that relationship. You got this, folks? I hope that you're with me here. Maria, good to see you as well. Yvonne as well. I hope I'm saying your name correctly. You know, Truman Capote, and people don't like when I say this, but I'm going to say it right now. That people who are having a love-sex relationship with each other are continually lying to each other because the nature of the relationship demands that they do. Because you have to editorialize about the other, which means you cut out what you don't like and add what isn't there. And so essentially what we are interacting with is a lie. Is a lie. Are only edits about that person or that relationship that I'm in right now or that relationship I want to be in the future. So instead of dictating to love then how it should show up in our lives then, allow instead love to dictate to us how it should show up. You got this, folks? So the ego's range from A Course in Miracles, the range of the ego is always from suspiciousness to viciousness. That's it. That is where the ego traffics. Again, between suspiciousness to viciousness. I'm skeptical about this relationship I'm in or getting into, right? And if it doesn't go south, or if it does go south rather, what occurs in my relationship? Then the experience that I'm dealing with will become vicious. It'll be violent. In other words, those people that you have raised on your pedestal to bring you an experience of special love, what happens? That's going to fail. And when it does fail, your special love then turns into your special hate. And it happens over and over again. And you and I cannot in any way think that that is loving or lovable or is a representation of love in the first place. This is why my dear friends here in West Palm Beach and Miami as well, and all of us, and I mentioned this also in my book, The Game of Love, Changing the Rules, Changes Everything, on our website, is that we want to have a posture and a premise of an agenda-free rapport with each other. This is why any dear friend of mine knows that when they are into my environment or my surroundings, that they're going to feel safe. Because I'm not here to get anything from them in the first place. And secondly, I have no agenda, no expectation whatsoever, and that the relationships as we are looking at it in that moment is neutral. So the only meaning and value that the relationship has is the meaning and the value that I give it to it. If I give the relationship a value or a meaning of expectations, guess what? We're going to experiencing the suffering because of it. Expectations equals suffering. I can't be more simple than this. Love. Love, 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 love is free from anything due from other people or any sacrifice whatsoever in our relationships. If we do bring those things, those tools of separation, then we're not in reality in that relationship, but we are instead stopping communication in that relationship. Okay? Be here and now. Without your expectations, Reverend Esteban Landano, who's on our board of trustees as well, used to tell me all the time, hey, Kevin, stop forecasting, right? Stop forecasting. In other words, we are not enjoying the relationship by evaluating it each inch of every yardstick. Okay, that's not relationship. That's evaluation. We are not expressing the love of God. We want to be at the end of our lifetime here, to be a statue of a critic. Nobody has ever erected a statue of a critic, okay? This is why people leave relationships, is because the other person is trying to attempt to improve that person. When in reality, what is really happening is they are trying to improve themselves. And so it's easier for them to project it upon somebody else. They're the problem here in their relationship, not me. Do you see this, folks? This is why a suspension of judgment is critical to all of us. This is why A Course in Miracles says, today I will judge nothing that occurs. I will be honest with myself today. I will not think that I already know what must remain beyond my present grasp. I will not think I understand the whole from bits of my perception, which are all that I can see. Today I recognize that this is so, and so I am relieved of judgments that I cannot make. Thus do I free myself in what I look upon to be in peace as God created us. Okay? I said earlier that judgment involves a duality-driven thinking. Duality thinking keeps us asleep. Non-duality helps us to awaken to the dream state that we ourselves have produced. That's it. This is why my bracelets, What Would Love Do Now, say, brings me out of time and space, outside of the past and the future, and brings us instead stepping into the window, the portal of the eternity. That's it. Okay, we've covered the first 2 or 3 steps, I think. This will be the next one here. In your relationships, don't push the river. Don't push the river. So let's look at it differently here, okay? Why do people want to push the river? Why do they want to have a relationship, a romantic relationship, for instance, sooner than later? Why do they want to get married sooner than prolong it with an engagement, for instance? It is because the ego has a notion in their minds, in its mind, that, Kevin, you know what is in your own best interest, right? That Cynthia or Scott or Diana or Aaron, you guys know what is in your own best interest. And the reality is that they don't. I certainly don't know what is in my own best interest. I've had relationships where I have been better off taking a cheese grater to my face than continue in that pattern that I was experiencing it. So I thought, if I experience the relationship in the same way that I have been in the past, it'll get better. No, it won't. It will continue to experience that over and over again until we stop the cycle of sabotage. That's it. And then we can experience the love of God because of it. And again, I want to restate it here, that love is not a relationship. That love is a state of being. It is a reality whether you are aware of God's love or not. You see this? Hey, Gordon, good to see you, my holy brother. I haven't seen you in probably 20 years or so. So this is why, my holy friends, my holy sisters and brothers, is that we do not want to push the river in our relationships. What is the alternative then? Is that we stop thinking, as the Tao Te Ching says, stop thinking and end your problems now. What difference between yes and no? What difference between success and failure? Okay? There's a better way to interact in our relationships simply by emptying our minds and allowing and cleaning the slate. And when we do that, that still small voice will arise and tell you what to do in those relationships, how to approach it, how to think about your brother or your sister. And your relationships in that moment will change accordingly. So, the result of this, then, is our total disregard of what's happening in the eternal timeless now, the substance of God's love, and instead, under the leadership of the ego, we amplify and magnify what's happening in the world of the effect. Okay, what's happening in the mirror that we are looking at right now. Okay? We're like a bunch of little kids around a Christmas tree, right? and they want only the biggest box with the shiniest wrapper, and that is where their attention is. That is where their energy is. And when their fixation is on wrappings and the size of the box, they're going to miss what's happening inside of those boxes. And all of us know that a small box is sometimes more expensive and more value to us than a bigger one. So the ego wants our attention to be placed upon the box and to ignore what's happening in the inside of what's happening in that boxes that is being given to us as an opportunity. However, this is the way, unfortunately, we approach relationships. And this is why that 55 to 60% of marriages fail because of it. However, there is a dynamic where the potential of God's love between two people begins to awaken and becomes maximal. In other words, when a couple begins to bring their attention and energy and value and meaning to what's happening here instead of what could be or what has been happening, when we let those things go, let go of our thinking, and to live and move and abide in the eternal timeless now, then we can experience God's love. You see this, folks? All right. All right, doesn't look like we have any questions here today, and that's okay. I just want to end here with a last statement for you, okay? I mentioned that love is without expectations, that love is one, that we didn't want to push the river too much, and then also that love is freedom. Love is freedom. Hey, Karen, good to see you. Love is freedom. You know, I am reminded from The Matrix, where Morpheus was talking to Neo in The Matrix, right? And Morpheus said to Neo, hey, the Matrix is everywhere. It is all around us, even now in this very moment. You can see it when you look out your window or when you turn on your television. You can feel it when you go to work, when you go to church, when you pay your taxes. It is the world that has been pulled over your eyes to blind you from the truth. And then Neo responded to Morpheus by saying, what truth? What truth? And Morpheus said that you are a slave, Neo. Like everyone else, you were born into bondage, into a prison that you cannot taste or see or touch, a prison of your own mind, right? Unfortunately, this is how we approach relationships in this world, okay? That we, in those relationships, we say, oh, this is a relationship that is free. No, it isn't. As long as we are bombarded by experiences of suffering, of sadness, of disappointment, of failings, of mistakes, all of those things occur because we have accepted the initial lie that has been given to me and to you, which is this: that love, under the guise of the ego, is not freedom, but a sleep, a sleeping dream. That's it. And so how do we awaken from ourselves, from those dreams of being asleep, not aware or awake of what's really occurring in our world? By removing the first lie in your relationships. We've talked about the law of chaos, the first law of chaos, that my truth is different than yours. And not only this, my truth is better than yours, number one. And number two, in that moment, we create an illusion of separation between me and you. We create from our own minds the hallucination that there's a subject here and an object here. When we remove the gap that we have placed between ourselves, then we can have an experience of God's love. Otherwise, we're going to be asleep. You say, Kevin, how do I know if I need to enter into this relationship with this person or not? And it's real simple. If the ego rises into your minds and says, hey, I know this person wants to be in a relationship with them, sure. But the ego's voice comes up and says, how much is this going to cost me, right? How much sacrifice is this relationship going to demand from me? Financially, emotionally, physically, and many other levels that what we would see or perceive as a chain. That is not an entrance into a relationship. That is an entrance into hell. Each and every time. Okay? This is why we see ourselves more having an experience that we're more asleep than awake. I'll give you another way to look at this here. We're talking about relationships here. We're talking about love. Let's talk about your paycheck, okay? To give you an example of how relationships should manifest itself in your world. Okay. If I have in my mind a voice of fear that arises that says, Kevin, you don't have any money right now, but next Friday, you're going to have money then, right? You're going to be abundant then, next Friday when you get paid. So when I entertain that notion that my abundance will come to me next Friday, and until Friday I'm going to experience lack and limitation and scarcity, then guess what? That is my experience that I'm going to have. The same is true about love and our relationships. Okay, we want to experience God's love and abundance in our lives, but the moment that I say to myself, hey, I'm going to have love next Friday when I have a date with Joseph or Mary, then I'll experience love. In that moment, we miss the mark entirely. We remove God's love in that relationship that is happening right now. We essentially we restrict the distribution of God's love to next Friday when I have a date with this person. Or I'm going to restrict God's abundance by removing it to next Friday when I get a paycheck. You see how this works? I hope so. I hope so. Folks, what a wonderful time that I have had with you. Before in the video I said that there's the ego's playbook of relationships, and that was in my book. And I want to visit the Spirit of Love's playbook instead. And you can compare both of those playbooks together as you watch the video again, here on this page or also on our website, the academyofspiritualawakening.org. The Spirit of Love's playbook, the first one, I now possess God's treasure of love within me. Let me say that again. I now possess God's treasure of love within me now. Now. Not tomorrow. Not yesterday when I had that marriage before and then I got a divorce. No. That the treasure naturally has been given to me and you and to the world. To accept God's love and abundance and joy and bliss by simply accepting that gift when it has been given to us. when we incarnated into this world. Secondly, everyone possesses the same treasure I do. So that the self-same love that God has given to me has also been given to you and everyone in this world. 3, I will love others as I love myself because we share the same treasure. And this is why Jesus mentioned this in the New Testament as well. The golden rule, loving God with all of our heart, soul, and strength, and loving others as we want to be loved. And then fourthly, that love cannot be threatened and fear does not exist. Love that has been given to us right now in this moment, it cannot be threatened. The world cannot harm it or add anything to me or subtract anything from me. That what we are experiencing in this moment is God's love given to us in this moment. And this is why that fear then does not exist whatsoever. Fear, that voice of fear, its foundation is in the past and in the future. When you bring your attention here instead, then you and I can experience God's love completely. Okay? All right, folks. Well, look, if no one has told you today that they love you, allow me to be the first. I love you so much, and I want to thank you, by the way, for those donations through our website, the Academy of Spiritual Awakening.org, or here on Facebook Live, or by mail. So thank you so much, and really extending and expressing God's love. Hey, Louis, good to see you, my holy friends in Coconut Grove. Thank you so much for your donations. I want to invite you as well to go to our website, the Academy of Spiritual Awakening.org. All of our videos are there right now. Last week's video on relationships is already there as well. I invite you as well to subscribe to our YouTube channel. You're going to see the YouTube channel here on my page as well. All right, folks. Again, if no one has told you today that they love you, allow me to be the first. I love you so much, and I hope that you and I today and every day can express and extend the good, the holy, and the beautiful, because that is what we are.